to the Infinite Creative Podcast. My name is Fitz, and we got you,
Sean. Hey, guys.
The last two episodes, I think, actually, it was really AI heavy. And actually, this episode is even more AI heavy because we talked about MidJourney and we talked about how an artist in Colorado won an art competition and basically won the whole thing. And he openly said, hey, I used this tool and they did not know what it is. And so he just won. And we're just like, oh, you can try MidJourney for free. And we kind of got like curious about it. So we took it up to us to experiment a little bit. And yeah, today we will talk about how to be a good AI composer, how you can use MidJourney, what tricks and tips we have, and basically just go over it and see what creative ideas we had, and yeah, taking a closer look at MidJourney.
Yeah. Looking at MidJourney, so the artist named Jason Allen in Colorado, it's kind of crazy. He won this competition. He had to do, I think, something like 300, 400 revisions of this art too, which is interesting. So we're going to talk about that kind of aspect today as well. It's not only being generated, but it's improving and improving and improving and improving an idea. And like, where do you stop, right? When is it perfect? So it's really interested because it's not like he just popped out one piece of art. He's like first thing through something. He actually crafted it through this. He actually used this as a tool, which is interesting, I think.
The whole concept in general is basically like you describe something, and the better you describe it, the more you can improve it, and then you get like a finished result that is made by a program that basically sources a ton of images and combines everything, and obviously everything kind of matches. And sometimes there's like some imperfections or it doesn't really work out, but then you just hit the redo, and yeah, that's basically what that AI program kind of is. I kind of want to throw on the screen now the image so that we know who won and why they won, because like I really enjoyed the art piece. And yeah, I will share in a second. There we go. There you see it. It got the first place Fine Arts Colorado State Fair. And yeah, $750 for that art piece. I think that is a good price.
Yeah, I'd say, and it is. It's a very beautiful piece, and it's just cool because it makes you like wonder like what was his prompts? What was he putting in there for this?
Yeah. Oh, that actually brings me on a cool idea. Have you MidJourney open right now?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So here's what you do right now. You try to recreate this art piece with a couple commands, and I fill the space. So first attempt, try it. Then we can compare the winning art piece versus Sean's art piece, because there's a little bit more to it. Because like in the end, what designers are maybe becoming to be is an AI composer. And that basically means you have to describe whatever you have in your head as specifically as possible to get your basically get on the same wavelength with the program. So whatever you imagine, the program will imagine. And the better you can describe it, the better your result is. Obviously, sometimes there's like little mistakes, and like we already said, you can remake it. Also, the first couple images are usually like a little bit low res, and then you can say you like the result that you got, and you can upscale it. With this art piece here, I have like kind of like a couple ideas how to put a finger on it, but obviously I'm foreign, so my descriptive words were maybe not the right ones. But Sean, as a native, will probably have like way better chances to get close to it. Yeah, Sean, are you kind of ready with your first command, or you still need a couple moments?
A few more moments here.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically, in my head, I don't know where I get it from, but I think this looks like a very advanced Star Wars themed, futuristic. Hey, we're on another planet, and we have a really nice view. So it's like very weird. It's futuristic, but also like very romantic and historic. Maybe like I don't even know the time frames. So as an AI composer, it's like really important to know like many names and styles so you can describe something very specifically. So yeah, Sean, I think your attempts are over. Let's put it on the screen.
All right. You have to unshare it for me to share.
Yeah, let's share it right now. So how would you describe this image? So let's use the words that you used.
Oh, so wait, no. Hold on one second. Sorry, clicked the wrong one here.
Yeah.
So the words I used for this was Jason Allen AI artwork, Chinese, circle door orange robes in the drop of the hat moment. This is what but even you can see here that it created something that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was my attempt.
Pull it up again because I think this is a very important lesson, because if I would have described it, it would be obviously different. And can you zoom in maybe, or
I mean I could
open the original, and then this already looks really cool. So where did you saw the Chinese? Now I'm kind of curious, because I was seeing some Roman.
I don't know. I felt like I got an Asian vibe from this. I think it's the I'll put this over here so you can see. So it's the kind of like the woman in this kind of headdress just seemed Asian. This all seemed very Asian inspired to me.
Yeah, for me it's more like I cannot even describe it. It's like some old rich family in the 1500s,
Yeah, I don't know. So so you would have already done something different even with it.
I would have described it differently a little bit, but
it was like little things like over here where you have like this kind of Asian looking thing. I don't know. I was
Yeah, but basically what it comes down to is how well can you describe something and how well does it match your vision. And as you can see, they are quite different, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I mean, so we did some tests kind of off camera. I definitely have things to show, which we kind of thought of some interesting prompts, and then the idea of how you revise them. Yeah, but I think it's really interesting, right? Because so I guess I'll just go ahead and say what they were. So one of them was just the meaning of life, which I think is interesting, right? Like if each of us had to create an art piece that was the meaning of life. What the heck would you do? What would you even do? I don't know. If someone said to me, you have to come up with a design that's the meaning of life. So it's interesting because I had to be very creative to even come up with the prompt. There was creativity of what do I tell it? Because if I just tell it the meaning of life, it kind of just spits out very abstract things that were meh. So it was how do I push that then to the next step? And then the next prompt was your cuttlefish, which you have a story behind. But just giving it a wacky prompt and just seeing what it can give you, which is really weird. It'll be interesting because I did a weird prompt for it, and it was interesting because it kind of cornered me in a weird place too. And then the third one, go ahead. You want to go?
So we will get back to that also, but I think it's really important to describe the prompts, because as an AI composer, and especially in the beginning, the thing that you're gonna do is you come up with a simple sentence, T-Rex fights an octopus, for example. I saw that in the prompts, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and somebody messed with that idea and modified it and upscaled it to a degree where it looked photorealistic, and it was really crazy. But there's also people who are more advanced, and they're basically let's describe that a little bit better, and they're using words the shallow depth of field, the art style, the time frame, specific poses. So you can actually more than one short sentence, but you can write a whole book if you want to, and the program will use that. Yeah. So how well did you use your prompts in the beginning, and what did you learn?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's, and that's kind of what I was going to get to, even with the third kind of prompt thing that we did have, which was a beautiful woman and an ugly woman. I thought that was really interesting. Where
did we say an ugly woman?
Yeah, well, I did an ugly woman too. Right? Why not? But
so that one, keep it even.
That one was really cool because I made it purposefully vague, which I think is interesting too. So you can make it really long, right? You have an exact idea what you want. and using terminology, which is really interesting. It really is just about how good are you with terms, right? 4K, do you know what that is? Do you know what an 8K thing is? Do you know what rim lighting is? Do you know what a Gaussian blur is, a motion blur, a radial blur? Do you know your art movements, your neo-Gothic period versus your humanist period? Do you know, your color ranges, analogous color versus primary colors? So, the more that you know those terms and you could just feed those terms in, that's how you could really just craft something super special. So that was what was really cool to see, is that you could give it something very vague and get an idea of what MidJourney thinks something is, but then you could do these kind of long things and just see, you could do, the
poses
Rocky...
of a body, for example. If you want,
yeah.
I saw that with a guy. He's okay, he was redefining a girl, and he very specific, how dressed, whatever. But he really is this pose, and I'm like, oh, there's a name for this pose even? Did not even know, but apparently there's a name for nearly anything.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I mean, and I when I first started using this, I only saw it used for art, really, just paintings, drawings, illustrations. But people are making websites in this. People are making sketches in MidJourney already, where they're putting in website, homepage, splash screen, prototype. And it actually is already doing that. So that kind of blew my mind too. Is I've just thought of this as okay, well, it's doing some art stuff, but
there's some pictures and colors.
But people are actually looking up things they're not necessarily that, and it's really cool to see. Scary though. I mean, it's just it is still scary in this way that how good it is. So dang early. When did MidJourney come out? Do you even know? Do you know which year that?
Yeah, MidJourney is actually not that good in comparison to DALL-E. So that is another thing. But DALL-E is so MidJourney is accessible for the public. So it's very easy to get a hold of. You just go on there, sign up to a Discord server, and just type in your information, and you can use it for free for I think 4 or 8 pictures. I don't even know. And then there's a paid version. I think you did the paid version, or? Sean?
Yeah. So I was, I did, you do get a free amount. I think it's something like 25, maybe 50. I've already gone over that amount, but it's only, it's a very cheap amount of money per month. I think it's $5 or $10 a month. Maybe it's $10 a month, to get 200. But which, what's interesting is I found a use with this. I'm running a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, so now using this for the monsters and things is just amazing, and the world for that matter. So have something that's popping out all this cool art that I need is amazing. So it was worth it.
And it goes so fast too. Or let's say you put in a command, it probably takes 60 seconds, and it will pop out something. And to upscale it, obviously that takes another 60 seconds, whatever.
Yeah. So you can upscale once, you can then upscale again, and they're rolling out new features. They have this new kind of remastered feature, which means you can get it up to this kind of upscaled version, and then you can remaster that version to be even something new. And it's crazy. So it's they're constantly improving it. And MidJourney, I just looked, it just came out this year, so it's brand spanking new. And so for this being version 1.0. It's it kind of blows my mind. But
like I said, let's put can we screen share again? And you have MidJourney open so that people actually see how it looks when you use it for the first time, because we obviously said a lot, but I think on YouTube it would be kind of cool to see some examples of other people's art.
Yeah, so let's so I'm in just one of the newbie rooms right now. So if you kind of look, so just so people kind of know too, you do have newcomer rooms, which I do suggest going into. I wouldn't go into any of the other kind of member rooms. But
let's stop at one piece and let's see what prompts they use. So low descriptive and one that is more descriptive. That would be a good example, I think.
So here we have a 9-story building with curved step terraces. So you can see that this is what they got from something that's pretty basic one. Let's see if we can.
Well, but you know what is funny too? It actually is not 9 stories. Go on to it again.
Oh yeah, let's count them. Let's see.
Yeah, because what I learned is they have issues with counting in mathematics. So that is the one thing. It will do art and it will use descriptive words, but it's very, very bad with counting.
That's a good point. Very good point. Yeah, I didn't even realize that, which is weird. You would think a mathematical thing would be easy for AI.
I think it kind of goes back to the dreaming too. Like when people dream, they have issues with like, imagining like letters and like numbers, because like all you really do is like putting images together in your dreams, and they melt into like a reality. I think that's kind of the same thing there. What is like kind of weird, like there's just random pictures that are correlating to the images, and they get melted together, and logic and numbers don't really fit into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, it's yeah, it is. It's, I don't know. It's cool to see what does trip it up and what doesn't too. The upscaling I found was always interesting. When it had to add more, it created more problems. Like the eyes would get weird. Things would happen on faces that would get weird once you blew it up. So I thought that was weird too, is that like it did great at small sizes, but once you like blew it up, the weirdness would kind of start to happen.
Yeah, I think that is actually a good example right there, like the wizard and the one below right there.
Yeah, I think this one's a good one right here.
Yeah, let's go on to the specifics that he used to make this prompt. As you can see, he described it very, very well.
Yeah, a scientific instrumentation mechanical engineering three-dimensional rendering model of a quasar, baroque, antiquarian, intricate, detailed, exquisite hyperrealism. And so what he's using here is those type of formulaic things, is the dash test, the dash creative, the dash up beta. And so a lot of these things, I don't even know what they all stand for, but these are like actually even more powerful functions that you can perform on all of these things. So even what he did here, so the up beta, I think, just means that he can keep upscaling even more so than usually can. So if we open this up, we go to the original, it's probably gonna be really high resolution. Yeah, so you can kind of see here, look how high resolution this art is that he's created using this kind of formulas. This is kind of insane. Like when I get in here, you can really even start to see kind of some of the strokes of like almost a paintbrush or something. You can kind of see the light hitting the paint on the canvas. So
that is like one of the things you can say too. Like you could use that as a descriptor for how your art should be, like paintbrush, light, all those descriptors you can use. But one of the things that I find is kind of mind-blowing, like if you listen to this on Spotify, hit the like button, all those descriptive words that Sean said a moment ago, after like one or two, your mind is already what? And that, you would not even put a finger on the thing or be even close to the descriptive thing, whatever was described, like you maybe can imagine two things if it's simple, but if you get really technical, I don't even know if the human mind can come up with like, oh, this is what I'm imagining,
Yeah, and it's very interesting, so even here, this is another good one, Pinball Wizard and 1980s arcade. So now here, so when you see these two, when you see the two colons, what that's saying is in like this is like describing what I just asked for. So I asked for this thing, and then you do the two colons, and then you're describing in more detail what that thing is. So it's kind of cool. You can also separate things out so it doesn't get confused at what you're describing. But yeah, so in this case, it's using a Yoji Shinkawa style, which if you don't know, you should look Yoji Shinkawa. He's like a really famous futurist kind of illustrator. But like by knowing who that is and putting that in here, though, it just like immediately defines like what this is going to look like, and it's really cool. So you see things like 8K stylized. Here he's creating an aspect ratio of 16 by 9.
What is really scary though? Like you have right now that artist, and it's like some of the images are maybe really close to art he would have done, and you could sell it as new art. Nobody would know, if he ever did it or not. And so this will give access to like fake art, you know what I mean? Like let's say somebody died and you're like, oh, I got this. He was a digital artist. There's no way to disprove, or what I mean? If it's thought through, it will get really scary right now for all the digital artists.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, let's do a little test here. So, like, Da Vinci. Let's do Da Vinci Eiffel Tower, or no, let's do Da Vinci White House illustration. Let's say Da Vinci, invented the White House.
But put in that he draw it by pencil, so it's more believable, and put it on like an old paper sheet.
You know, and I probably don't even need to put this in. I'm sure if I even do that, like, let's just for fun, I'll do that next if this doesn't work, but I'm sure it's going to work. So, just do this.
And this is actually how it works. It is kind of crazy.
So you can see that it's like kind of rendering here.
It's very muddy in the beginning, and it will redefine over time. The more time it spends on it. Dim, 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 dim.
And you see how it just kind of comes in these like layers. It's like defining, like, okay, all right. So he does it in this old kind of parchment style.
I actually like that because I did that a lot as a kid. You know, when you draw something and you don't know what you really draw, and you scribble a little bit, and then you see something in a pattern, and then you redefine the pattern.
Exactly. Yeah, well, and even in painting, you're doing this kind of back paintings. You're like, things are kind of out of focus and getting more in focus. So it's cool that that's even happening in this process.
This is already like too good if you think about it. You know, like.
Yeah, so you look at this and it's so it needs some work. It's not quite in the Da Vinci style, I would say, but it's like at least a little deceiving.
Yeah.
But
because,
yeah, so
sorry for interrupting.
Oh, you're fine. So let's do the one that you were talking about, where so it's Da Vinci. So Da Vinci, White House, and then we'll do pencil, old style, parchment,
papyrus or something. I don't know.
Yeah, just old. Well, yeah.
It's like one of the things, like you actually need to be good at spelling and all those descriptive words, and they have to match. You know, for me as a foreigner, it's really tough. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can maybe do simple things, you know, but I will not really compete with like Sean, for example, who's like really good with like all the style terms. And I think like people who went through school, so I think you have now there a really good heads up because you have history, you know. And you learned about all those things, you know?
Yeah. So I think it's cool because it does show that there is an importance in knowing stuff. You still should know stuff. I think a lot of people are so against like college and the idea of linear thinking that like that picking up a book or going through a course is still needed even in this world. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's see what pops up here. So I added just a couple things: pencil, old style, parchment, Renaissance. So let's see what it pops up here.
Yeah, it's actually what are your use cases for this program? If you would like, just guess. Like, how could you use it as like an AI composer, and you want to improve like your workflow?
I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like the more I think about it, the more that it is usable. I've already talked about Dungeons and Dragons. So when you just have something that's like a creative project that you don't have time to really craft out all these little cool components, it was such a great example of that. Like, so even if you're writing a story, let's say, and you want to put an illustration in that story, but you don't want to hire an illustrator and you don't know how to draw, you're just a guy that writes. Well, now you can do this, right? You could get at least some placeholders. Wow, look how much better this is just with those few things. This looks more like Da Vinci.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, you would not even, if you would see that like really high scale, upscale, you wouldn't even know if you actually draw that or not. Like, you don't have the time to background check all the drawings you did. That alone is like, oh my God, what is going on in this future?
Right. Now, there's people that are masters of understanding these artists, so even they could pick these things apart and probably find the errors, which would be really interesting. I wish I knew someone that was kind of an art historian master. But yeah, so I think sorry, I just lost my train of thought here. But you know, it's the framing and stuff is super important. I think it's like being able to frame a question is now more important than ever. And what's interesting is you do that already, right? We already use Google. We already use a lot of these tools where if you don't know the question to ask, then you're not going to find the answer. And now I think this is just like that. If you don't know how to ask the right question, then you don't know how to get the right answer.
I think on that note too, like this is again another great equalizer. We were talking about it, how like everything is getting more affordable. All the tools are getting like, it's not anymore limited. You can be now an artist basically without being able to have access to materials. As long as you have a good vision and you develop your own style and you combine the right things, it will be really, really, really hard to achieve the same style back in the day, and now anybody who has a cool idea can come up with it and publish it,
Yeah, and I mean, and I definitely know as a designer, it's definitely opens up a world to me that I don't know. Part of me is like, there still needs to be illustrators. They still need to like hire people that do these things to help support them.
But work with that, because like there's no layers in there. There's no anything, and you still have to work with all the art pieces that were generated. So
it's
I think
true.
there's still a place.
It still can take a long time. I mean, going through kind of some of the prompts and like trying to get it better and better, I did notice like you could still spend like 10, 20, 30 hours getting an actual perfect thing to come out of this. So it's weird. You could still spend a ton of time doing this and perfecting it and having it spit out, all these things. What I was also thinking of too is like, God, I wonder, like, right now it's only popping out a grid of 4, what happens when I can have it pop out a grid of like 50 possibilities at a time, and I can just quickly scan and pick them out and select them and then go to the next with these. Like we're not quite there, but like, yeah, when you can have this batch type of, evolution, it blows my mind. And it's good. I mean, it just brings up the question, like, what is good and what is bad, right? If it looks great, if it tells a story, if it has a meaning, isn't that good still, even if it was made in AI? But it just sucks to be those people that have learned to do these things. Like if you've spent your whole life being a digital painter and you see this, I could see how you feel like, wow, this is not really fair in a way. It's just like, okay. I've wasted all this time.
So there's a couple of things though. Like, so the first off, when you go into a museum and you look at an art piece, the thing that everybody tells you to do is like stand in front of it, observe it, and what does it make you feel? What do you think? You still can do that with that, and you still get feelings and emotions. Obviously they were maybe not planned by the AI, and they just like randomly happen. But the person who's writing those commands, they maybe planned it. So let's say the artist who spent all his lifetime creating a specific art piece, he maybe has like, hey, I want to have the viewer to feel this. If he would use this tool, obviously he would get like maybe even better results, than with his art. And if he would just lean more into this.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the thing too. I think you bring up kind of a good point there, where it's you can use this as a tool for inspiration too. I mean, it doesn't have to be the final art, right? You can just use it as like a proof of concept of what something could look like. Even like I said earlier, people are using this for like logo concepts, things like that. And I know that's one world that I live in that can be really hard to come up with legitimate concepts. So even that, just to have another thing in your disposal, right? Like I have lots of things that I get inspiration from, but yeah, this could be a good tool for that too.
I think we should go back to our prompts that we were using, and talking about so I was trying to use this for my own, I had like a program going on, what I wanted to do. I just have to look if it's still there, because like I was like using it to create my lens holder, like just doing some research, how would it do my lens holder. But it seems, where's my downloads? Is it gone? Oh no, don't be gone. Don't be gone. What happened? I lost my example. I made a lens holder. I don't know. Are they saved?
They are in your Discord, in your profile.
So I have to go back to MidJourney. Can you send me the link?
Show mine in the meantime, or
yeah?
So go to midjourney.com and then sign in, and then that'll bring you to where you need to go. But yeah, so we did some other prompts. So I want to show one here where it's like the meaning of life. So I want to show this one. So okay, yeah. So what's cool about this is I wanted to so when I use this, the prompts, let me pull those up too so I can just say I wanted, it was like I said, I didn't want to have something that was super abstract and didn't make any sense. So my prompt for this was to create a master humanist oil painting of a floating non-binary person surrounded by a mosaic of life experiences and dreams among clouds. So I created this really cool kind of creative prompt, right? So I have things like mosaic in there of life experiences, dreams among the clouds. I wanted a non-binary person because I just wanted the meaning of life not to be man or woman. So here on this screen, so it, it kind of came into focus, and it was interesting because you can see the clouds kind of start to appear. You see in the bottom left this kind of texture, this kind of old school mosaic texture from like old Photoshop kind of pops in. Then you start to see on the bottom right this kind of blocking where it's kind of creating this mosaic of people. And and then to just kind of quickly, I'm just going to pop over here for a second. Pop this out. And so this was the final piece, which was really cool. Like once blown up, I thought it was really cool, this kind of meaning of life. So it took my mosaic, a mosaic of life experiences, kind of among the clouds. I definitely think it was great that you kind of almost see two faces here on the left and the right side. So it's like this kind of non-binary. It's like this woman and man. So I don't know. It came out with something really cool, and that was in one try. That was just one round.
Yeah, and I also see like some, like how you see things in the picture, I'm seeing like a bunch of little frames, and there's like maybe memories, and now we're like reading into this art piece that was generated by AI, what I find is kind of crazy.
Yeah, but what was interesting, like if I didn't use the words mosaic, if I didn't use the words non-binary and clouds, if I just said the meaning of life, we wouldn't have had all that stuff. So I kind of constructed some of the meaning, which was interesting, so some of the value baked in here is still my value, which is interesting, but it just it's so cool that it just like ran with it though.
Yeah.
Are you ready with your examples?
I don't know where they are saved. I'm in my account. Where do you see them? If I would go on to them, because I want to make a good example about like what I had as a prompt versus what I actually designed in real life. Yeah,
so they should be in your messages. So if you go to your profile on
let me
on Discord.
Let me share my thing. Messages? I don't have direct messages. Nope. Oh, and now I lost MidJourney.
Oh God.
Just lead me. Screen.
yeah. I'll let you share your screen.
Yeah,
we're live on a podcast. You should have this ready.
Well, we were kind of like on the fly, and I got the idea. So first off, I wanted to show so where do I find it? Inbox?
So go to your direct messages, I think. Oh no, wait, nope, it's not there. Let's see. Let's post it together now. Let me see. I always get here. The way I get here is I go through the MidJourney website and then sign in, and then when you sign in, it should pop you right to where it is.
Oh well, let's do it on the spot, I guess. So I'm like the prompt. I'm in the newbies. How do you do the prompt again? It was, isn't it imagine?
Yeah, imagine //
Oh, it's not the right prompt. It's not the right prompt. Imagine.
Or / imagine. My bad.
Yeah. Anyhow, I basically was trying to design this piece here, like my lens holder, a little plug. But it came out with something completely else, and I was like, I maybe need like a better design, and like maybe it could do like something better, So I was like, oh yeah, I want to display my lens holder on the shelf, and I would like to have like a cool design, and obviously, it did not work out how I wanted to, but yeah.
Do you know what your prompt was?
Lens holder, 50 millimeter, yeah. vintage lens or something like that. I forgot what it was, but I had it as example, and now I feel bad for not finding my example.
That's okay. Do you want to let me share again? I can kind of share a couple other things if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and so another prompt that you had, if you want to talk about this a little bit, this was your kind of prompt with the cuttlefish. Do you want to kind of talk about that backstory real quick?
Yeah. So I was basically at work back in the day, and one of my colleagues basically had some free time, and she liked to draw, and she drew something very creative: a cuttlefish with a monocle, a pimp hat, and in an anime style. And I was like, that's so cute and cool looking, And I was like, hey, I want to pay you, and I want to have that bigger and better for my living room, And I was like, that would be my first commissioned art piece. She never actually did it. And I was willing to pay top dollar just because of oh, this is a cute idea, Also, it's a remember of her, but yeah, it never happened. And I'm like, oh no, I could do it myself if I would describe it to the AI,
Yeah. Well,
what is again scary again, because now I don't have to pay the person to physically make it,
It's true. Well, okay. Well, yeah. So that's very interesting. So they did give you something cool, and they didn't or want to blow it up. So
yeah.
What's interesting is, so you said anime when you described it, and I didn't ever get that when we had talked about this prior. So I didn't do the word anime. So you'll see that mine's completely different.
That's fine.
Obviously. But yeah. So
details matter again.
And then, so I'll just run through this. So what I did, my prompt that I did was Monopoly cuttlefish with a top hat and monocle, because I thought about the Monopoly guy with his top hat and his mustache and his monocle. He was the only guy that I first thought of at first. So I put that in, and I was like, wow, this is just going to immediately...
I'm just curious now. It's really funny to, in the beginning when you play with that program, it's like, oh, what will I get? And you get that surprise factor.
Yeah, so I ended up getting it pigeonholed me in this kind of corner with these, where so you see you see a fish here, you see a kind of a monocle and a mustache, and then I'll just kind of move these. So this is each version I just kept picking. So each one I'm showing you is the one that I picked, and then it kept revising to the next one.
But it's not a cuttlefish.
Yeah, so we got towards cuttlefish. This gets close to it, and then kind of a little bit away. So it's funny how it was having a hard time figuring out cuttlefish. Yeah. And then we kept going. So this starts to look like a cuttlefish.
It's getting better, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're getting here. It's getting a little bit more refined too, I feel like. And then we kind of are getting here, and then this is my final one that I upscaled, was this one. So here's your cuttlefish monocle, and it's kind of in the shape of a top hat, so I guess that's the top hat part.
I don't know. I see more I don't even know what I'm seeing. I think I see a snail and a mustache separated,
Well, it's kind of a cuttlefish because they do have fins and the tentacles, but yeah, it's not quite there. But hey, okay. I thought, but yeah, so it was very funny. I thought that was a funny one where it just went completely off the wall. Now, the one that I really do want to get to that I'm really interested to hear what you think is the one where we kind of go through kind of what do I think a beautiful girl is or whatever, and having the AI kind of guide my hand.
I think our thing was our dream girl, whatever, something that you really would appreciate.
So this one I'm going to jump over to Evernote. So my prompt that I did was real natural looking beautiful young woman. Yeah. And that's all I did. So, because that's all I could think of was natural, young, beautiful. Those I didn't really want to go redhead, blonde, anything like that. So with that, it started me, and I'm actually going to show you the grids for this real quick too. So the first one was really interesting. It just kind of put me in this brunette corner. So as she kind of evolves here, it's kind of interesting. So it shows me different noses. You can kind of see different hair, different eyebrows. It's just kind of throwing things at me. I'm choosing certain features. And so it's cool because you can see it kind of refining here slowly. You can see this girl kind of coming into view.
Isn't it weird though how realistic, and I don't know, it's weird seeing a person,
Yeah, and you can see it's just it's
and it's meant that you like it,
Yeah, so I'm like always, and it was cool. It was a cool thing to pick like which one out of the four is the most attractive, and then so she's slowly getting more tan. She's getting this kind of darker hair.
She slowly grows a beard, and
slowly gets a beard, gets a monocle and a top hat. No, and then so it's cool. So she just gets kind of like more refined. What's funny is there's going to be a big upset here at the end though once I upscale it. So she just gets more refined into what she is. It's funny, they kind of try to throw me off with smirks and things like that. If she's smirking, do you like that? So anyway, so we get to, so this was, so I revised this 20 times. So just kept revising this girl, all the way to, so we're here now, she's looking very similar, but you could just see that she's been just a little worked out, a couple of the, whatever was happening, a couple of the kinks. And then it's giving me like this warm background now too. It's like trying to light the fire here. It's really funny how it's like changing things and like just adapting. You're getting this girl just looking just a little bit more refined. It's like looks similar to the first girl, but it's just getting more and more refined, just playing with different things. So anyway, it gets to a point where I feel like it kind of plateaued here, where it's like we just kind of are getting, it started to almost have airs, which was interesting. I started to see like weird stuff in the eyes even here, but anyway, so the final one after I downloaded it's really interesting because you see like an air right here, like even in the left eyeball. So once I upscaled it, this is what it ended up with. So this is the girl that I guess is beautiful, the girl of my dreams. But it's just really weird because you can see a lot of like weird airs in this. Like it just like looks like very like sorry,
but here's the thing though. Like even in reality, every human being is not perfect. Everybody has their imperfections.
Some have cyber eyes like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and some people, some people have more imperfections than others, but that makes them them. And now you could argue, yes, that is still a beautiful girl, even though her nose is weird.
It's all weird, kind of in a weird way. Once you upscale it, that's where it's like it's weird. You start to see the cracks in the facade, like her lip is all odd, and like that's a very weird lip thing going on there. So it's weird. So like at this size, very beautiful, right? Like, oh my God, gorgeous. but like when you get up to this size, it's just like, whoa, hello. But
anyway, could you not redefine it again?
I mean, so this is where the remastering comes in, is once you blow it up to this size, it's like it kind of knows that and I didn't do that, I should have. This was before I got the actual the membership. Sorry, just keep going in on her nose there. But
get her nose job.
Yeah, even up here, you got like a bald spot up here at the top.
Wow. But that poor girl, cut her some slack.
I know, right? And I'm sitting here judging her. I'm totally subjugating her to my male gaze here. But it's just interesting. But you can remaster it when it gets to this size and there's errors. I think you can work those out. And maybe this is where you do pull it into Photoshop, and I just do a couple magic things with my Photoshop, and I could fix all this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Very interesting. It was a really fun kind of thing. It took a little while to do this one. It's funny because it still took about an hour to do 20 revisions of that. But
But it looks really cool. I really enjoy it. Like, does she wear a kimono?
Yeah, it kind of turned in this Asian. Like this. I don't know. It's weird. It gave me this Asian kind of like texture. It feels like, right?
Yeah, Shauna tells me a lot about you.
Right? Maybe the AI knows me better than I know myself. I don't know. but yeah, man. Yeah, so it was very interesting stuff. Like it's just like cool experiments you can do, right? Like, what's the meaning of life, or like what's a beautiful girl, or like, just kind of these funny tests. One I did want to do that I haven't done, we could do live here, be like
I had an idea for that too.
Have it do like AI about itself. I think that would just be really fun to have it be like, ask MidJourney to make AI art about AI making art. It'd just be really funny.
My idea was that I had in my head that I wanted to ask you to describe yourself, So it's basically, how would you describe yourself, And could you redefine yourself, or ask AI about because it sources the internet for images. There's probably images of us on there, if you think about it. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we're not...
Because if you can look for the artists, you know? I'm like, where's the limit, you know?
Yeah. I have no idea where MidJourney is pulling its data from. I'm sure it has some papers somewhere, documents on where it's actually pulling this data. But yeah, very interesting. You're right. Like there, at the
Because
very
like
least,
you could fabricate technically, like, hey, there is Sandy going out with Pete, and Sandy's actually girlfriend of whatever, you know, and you're like setting up a weird scenario and sending pictures around. So
Well, yeah. Well, let's try something real quick here. So, like, let's just try someone that's famous, right? Give me someone that's famous right now.
Leonardo DiCaprio. This, I guess. Amber Turd.
DiCaprio? I don't even know how to spell his name.
That is my biggest problem of the program. So I hate doing it live, you know. I need to take my time, you know, copy and paste and double check spelling.
Yeah, because it has to be correct, I'm guessing. Like, that's something I'm interested in, too, is, like, how intelligent is it knowing even if I misspell something? So, yeah, I just had to copy and paste for everyone out there watching.
Struggle
let's
is
see.
real.
So,
We're all
Leonardo
humans.
DiCaprio, now give me, like a random job or something.
Making a pizza.
Okay, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio making pizzas in a New York kitchen. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Let's just do that for fun. So let's take a look. You know, and anyone can do this. This is a free like there is a free amount of this that anyone can do. So I would suggest anyone out there try it out. If you're scared about this, still try it out. I mean, because you do bring up a good point though that I think that people's likelihoods can be copied. Now we're not famous enough, you and I, but
Type
I think
in Sean Craig Creative, whatever, and just like try to figure it out afterwards, you know.
But that's true. If someone did do Sean Craig Creative or Sean Craig Design or something like that, could it maybe pop up my photo or use one of my photos on the website? Yeah, it definitely could.
Yeah, there's like so many ways how it gets like, you know, how it interferes like with current jobs. Like imagine you're a paparazzi, you know. You're like, oh, we need actually a photo of him actually working this job for our blog post. Well, we don't have actually like a photo of that. But now we're like, oh yeah, this is his new side hustle. And now, you know,
yeah, well,
I like
here
the
you
top
go.
right and the top left. That are my favorites.
I know the top right's has Daredevil vibes for some reason, but
he's serious about that pizza.
but I like that. Yeah, I like that top left one though. He's very proud.
Yeah, he's like, here, this is my pizza kind of sorter.
But yeah, so it's interesting, you know. Because you bring up a really good point that we really can be in these videos ourselves. I mean, we're content, we're generating content. People all over the world right now are just like inputting so much content into social media. We're essentially been made into content making machines, really. So we're all outputting the stuff that things like MidJourney are using, right? Like I'm sure they're pulling from some database of art. You know, that's where it gets creepy about Facebook owning your art, Instagram owning your art, Tumblr and places like that also owning pieces of your art or abilities to use your art for inner things.
Yeah.
That stuff can be sold too. I think when you talk about the data conversation, we're always talking about, you know, like your name, your address, your billing information, that type of data, your website usage, that data. But we never really talk about how your content data is also used. The stuff you've made, you as a videographer, all the videos you've ever made may be kind of fed into some AI somewhere. All the designs I've put somewhere in some portfolio may be fed into AI somewhere. So you don't really own anything. When it comes to the internet, like it's already eating your stuff and creating things based on that, and so it's weird. It's I can see like a lot of people really pushing back in the creative world now of not posting their work anymore. I've started to run into more and more people that are like, no, I don't need to. So why should I? Why should I put my work online?
That's actually very interesting. So I know a couple of younger people. And they don't do social media, you know, like most of the social media stuff for me as a videographer, Instagram is big, you know, you're supposed to be on Instagram to show what you do, blah, 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 you know, but the younger generation is like, oh, I don't want to share it, you know, and I'm like, but how do you judge then how good you are? How do you compare yourself, how good you are, you know, and I'm like, on the one side, it's now a very personal thing because they're all into like that vintage photography and Polaroids, and it would be cool to see them, but I have no idea, and they don't want to do it either. They don't want to share it, and I'm like, is our generation basically becoming like, hey, we're generating all this AI stuff and imaginary internet stuff that is like maybe living in the future separate than humans,
Well, I definitely, in art galleries, you definitely still see them say, no pictures, no video, please. You do still see that kind of stuff where, even in concerts, I don't know if you've been to any concerts. I've been to a few concerts where they say no phones out, don't record anything. We will throw you out of this the second we see you recording, because there is something special about it being unique to that moment, to that artist. And I do see that becoming more and more a thing. And and I do know young people just like you do, young creatives that, they don't want to use social media. I think young people in general are starting to kind of wake up. And when I say young, sorry, it's not us. People.
What are you trying to say here, Sean?
Sorry to be the one to tell you that.
I shaved.
They call me young in some circles, but I'm not technically young. So like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, the people are just graduating high school. I see them really pushing back on the social media in general. They're just kind of like, it's cheap. My stuff isn't really owned by me then. I don't have control over things. People have even manipulated art for bad purposes, like Pepe the Frog. He was made in the alt-right movement, and his creator was so mad because he never wanted that for him when he created it.
But on that note, it's not completely like that. So Pepe the Frog is still also like a regular Pepe the Frog. It's like everything gets sometimes hijacked, and everything
And that's not new. That's not new by any means. I mean, in Buddhism, the Wheel of Time is actually the swastika, not on an angle. But the Nazis co-opted it, put it at an angle. Now it's forever going to be defined as that. Even if it's put the right way, like where it's not diagonal, people still think that's a Nazi symbol now. So that's nothing new, the whole taking something over and calling it your own. And the internet may make that even easier too. Why couldn't I just grab like a piece of art that I've made somewhere else and then just put it on an alt-right website? And maybe you can't, but why can't you go to MidJourney and have it recreate it and then put that on an alt-right website? Because now it's technically not my art. So
I think like it's like a great equalizer and gives like a ton of opportunity to anything and everything. So like the whole copyright thing and that is basically colliding with AI, Like nowadays, like let's say you're writing your homework and you want to check if somebody else wrote it. I don't know how long we can do like, hey, fact checking if how much does it match? Because in like 20 generations, probably everything has been written every time, And it's like one of the things like copy and paste. Like, why can't we copy and paste, At one point, everything is like already out there. It's like the same with music. You want to write unique music? Oh boy, it's impossible. And every big hit is getting sued because the person who learned making music got inspired by, and then, there's a part of that song in there. It's just like slide, but they totally owe me now, So it's like, it's a weird thing. And in the future, it will only get worse now,
I think you're 100% right. I mean, I wish I could disagree with you on that, but I definitely can't. I mean, you're right. It's so gray area now. You do hear about all these old bands now getting sued and new bands getting sued and people being mad when they're, you've heard a lot of stuff of like people pulling stuff out of their songs, even after the fact now, which I think is crazy. I've never heard of that before. I forget who it was. I think it was Megan Thee Stallion or someone. I think she had a Beyonce like thing in her song and Beyonce got mad or something, and so she pulled it out even and then re-released it. So it's like it's very I think you're right though. I think it's like if I have this thing, like, because one thing that MidJourney and maybe other things do have, like Dolly and stuff, I haven't done my research, is that it doesn't
Dolly
have the ability.
Crazy. This is
it doesn't have the ability to quite yet, and maybe Dolly does yet again, is to take an existing image and have that be my search term, right? Like I grab a picture that I want and I just put it in, and it's like, okay, yeah, we'll fuck it up enough, and then there you go.
Change it, yeah.
I
I wanted to say about that because, like, on the one side, yes, this is bad for copyright and all those things, but on the other side, copyright in general is kind of bad, like for the poor population. You know, imagining you're living in the slums and you cannot afford like the school book, but now all the information is for free on the internet, and somebody's losing out on that monetization, and now all those tools becoming free too. So technically, everything is becoming limitless, you know, like there's not many things holding you back. Like, let's say you want to write a blog post, you cannot afford a photographer. Well, let's print out 20 pictures and put them on your blog and write a really cool blog post, or let the blog post be written by an AI. But hey, now you can make money with the internet. And like the limits are like only up to you. How much can you imagine? And what do you know? What tools are there? What can you use? And you know, so it's like it's a good future and a bad future at the same time.
So yeah, no, I love that so we're kind of going back full circle here of we talk about composers. I love that we're talking about, like, you know, that being kind of a tool set of being a composer and composing different things. But yeah, so if we were to look 10 years into the future, I think composing will obviously need to be a thing. It definitely is going to need to be a skill that people are going to need to learn how to create things based off of words and combinations of words. But what do you think's going to happen? Yeah, what do you think's going to happen with this? I mean, what do you see? This is obviously an upsetting force. I think you can agree that this is going to be upsetting to the entire creative community.
It's like the Photoshop when everybody was like drawing by hand, you know, and now everything becomes digital. I know a friend who basically saw a cool art piece, took a photo of it, and just photoshopped it and printed it out bigger, and like done. He's not planning on to sell it. He did not, you know, probably was not up to sell, but like, yeah, now he can like, oh, I got this nice art piece at home. And, you know, it's like, obviously everything is changing, but people have to adapt, because that is the only thing we're good at, and it's adapting new things and running with it. Some people are early adapters, some people are late adapters, but in the end, it will say, knock, knock, I'm here, and how prepared are you for it, you know?
Yeah, what do you think happens, though? Do you think, I mean, I don't think digital painters go away. I don't think photographers go away. I don't think that those people go away, but do they start to use this or die, or what do you think?
So here's the thing where I had like a bad vision about it. Like basically, you know, everybody on the internet is competing for attention and trying to grow, you know. But let's imagining in the future the internet is completely fake, and all we're doing is consuming the matrix. Basically, you know, it's like you don't know anymore nowadays if blog posts are real, because they were like 2 years ago written by Dali, and people did not know they were written by an AI. And people are like, oh, I have nothing better to do. Oh, this is a kind of crazy story. Let's read it. And there's some ads on there. And that is like the thing where I'm like, do we even have a chance to explode on the internet, or are we hold at a limit? Where it's like, oh yeah, we're consuming and we're making enough money to just consume and be, you know, occupied, versus like we're being free and doing the stuff we want to do. That was my nightmare. But on the positive side, there's like so many things that we can do, you know.
Yeah, well, it definitely, it's interesting because it's like a lot of technologies. It's both like the key and the lock in a weird way. And in this case, I feel like, yeah, it's...
You're always skeptical, you know, by the new tools and, like, worried. And I'm like, oh, let's try it and let's be, you know, optimistic. Obviously, I see the bad things, too. But I'm like, this has so much great potential, you know. There's somebody who's like, oh, I can do this with that, and I don't have to pay somebody, and I can sell it. Whatever, let him do that, you know. Obviously, there's probably some pushback or whatever, depending on how he uses it and what he does with it, but it will give opportunity, you know.
So I want to use a metaphor here. I think what AI generated art is it's the electric wheelchair that's in the Walmart, right? There's people that absolutely need that wheelchair. They absolutely need it, or they can't shop at Walmart. And then there's those other people you see using those wheelchairs. You're like, wait a minute, didn't I just see you walking a second ago? And that's what this can be. It's like it could either blow us up to a whole other level of potential, right? Like my D&D campaign now can be a whole better level it ever could have been because I have this. And so that's great. Or it could just be a shortcut where like, why do I even need to make art? Who even makes art anymore? I just use AI tools. And I could just go to the community and even steal someone's prompt, change a couple words, boom, got a new piece of art. So it can definitely kill us and destroy us, or it could help lift us up, I think, to a new level.
On that note, like as a 3D printer, and selling my own stuff on Etsy, people do that all the time. They're like, oh, I like that idea, but I don't like how it is. I want to modify it and want to make it better for myself, or I want to just steal it or whatever. This is just already a reality. Back in the day, it was woodworkers, but the tools, everything becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and more accessible and accessible, And we're taking pride in things and like, oh no, I earned this title. Whatever title we put in our head, and I worked for this, and this has meaning, and this is everything. Maybe it's not everything, and maybe the meaning is just like to be happy and do your thing and just make the best out of your situation. People will get offended because like they have their title in their head. For example, those artists who create an art style and they're known for a whole generation. Now people putting them as a prompt in there and getting the same thing out of it. I don't know what is healthier, the person with the title and being entitled, or being the person who's like, no, I'm doing something creative that everybody can imagine with that art style, what is better for the greater public for free. You know what I mean? It's like it's a weird place now.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's been getting weirder and weirder. I think what you're seeing now almost is the fact that you're seeing people lap you now for the first time, really ever in your lifetime. People are just skipping the entire thing that you've mastered. They're just like, yeah, I could do that. I could spend 20 years to do that, or I could spend 1 year being good at AI. And so you're just seeing that, and that's hard to see. I mean, me as a designer, it's hard for me to see, and I'm a digital designer, so I grew up with teachers that came from even the past generation of having like the very first pieces of software that ever did anything like page layout and things like that, and then their teachers were like people that, yeah, like you said, like were cutting clear things and literally putting them on top of each other and then lining them up for a camera shot. And if anything was wrong, they had to redo it all over again.
Yeah, on that note, though, everything is evolving faster and faster and faster. Now you can even lap, like, coding languages. Like, no, we're already at the next level, And people are like, no, you need 5 years of this coding language. And, like, that didn't exist in the time, Like, and there's maybe a more efficient coding language out there.
What's becoming more and more apparent, I mean, even as we do these podcasts and have the same conversation, what's becoming more and more apparent to me is that we have to start having toolboxes of stuff. We can't, you just cannot get attached to this. Even the AI stuff, you can't become just an AI composer. Like that just needs to be a part of the thing. Like, cause what's becoming apparent is we do live in this kind of magical time where I can come to you with a very complex problem, and it could be simple. Like I need a cool new style for this world-class music festival, and we need to do something that's never been done before. That's a simple sentence, hard as hell problem to actually do. But with things like this, it's like that's where it's like, okay, well, we can actually get better and better at each of these tool sets, right? Like I could get better at coding and web design. I could get better at AI generation stuff. I could get better at illustration and stuff too. And I think that's a good way to approach it, is like, don't feel like when you see this AI stuff that like, well, I just need to give up on illustration. It's like, no, that can still be more. I mean, I think it could take hours to get the right illustration out of this, clearly, where if you are a great illustrator, you could maybe pop out the same thing in 10 minutes. So
I think like the most important fact about all that is like to value the right thing, the right amount. Like you have a problem, and there's obviously millions of ways how to do it. You could hire a designer to design that thing from scratch, or you could hire an AI composer to come up with a bunch of ideas and take the best ideas you want, or you can hire everything, and you have to assign like a value to it, and you have to figure out what is the real problem, what is the most important part about this problem, and how do you want to solve it? Because like nowadays there's so many ways to go about it, and sometimes it's maybe better to have like, no, I want to have a unique one of a type thing, and it has to be not virtual. It has to be handmade, whatever, and it has to be a physical thing. And then obviously all that doesn't really matter. Maybe though it matters for like getting the person an idea of whatever you want, you know.
Well, and I think, I think people can always be agents of communication and empathy too, where you can have people still, like with AI, it's just like, this is what's good. I'm not going to explain why. Here it is. Where people can at least like explain why. Having the web designer could at least look at something and be like, well, here's X, Y, and Z. Here's what it does well. Here's where it couldn't do well. Where AI is at least still just, at least right now, is just like, well, here's the answer. Here's the answer. And we can trust that that's the answer. But I think that's kind of the thing too, is just having a person always as the middleman. So in a perfect world, you don't want to have the company owner using MidJourney to come up with web design concepts. What you want is the owner to get a web designer who is also using AI so he can do his job quicker, but still be the master of the knowledge. He still knows why things work and why they should and shouldn't work. And I think that's just really important. I mean, maybe I can't say that I know definitively, but I think AI is going to have a hard time with that part of like, not only are you showing me something cool, but you're telling me why it's cool, and you're telling me what it's doing well. So there's still going to be a need for people, but I'm nervous, just like a lot of creatives, when I see this. As someone that gets a lot of pleasure at learning and getting better at the tools, when I see stuff like this, it definitely makes me like question, like, should you put all this time into these tools? Should you put all your time into? And I think you still should, but you definitely need to be good at the zooming out part again. It just needs to be, Can you do all these different technologies? Can you integrate AI into this?
I think as a human, it becomes very important nowadays, or as an AI composer, or whatever you want to call yourself, designer, it becomes really important to have like a clear vision. Because like for me as an example, I have a little bit of ADHD, a little bit, and it's really hard for me to focus on one thing, But if I could focus on that one thing and paint that picture very clear, I would know what I need, and I know what I can afford right now. I know what, like, do you need to hire a videographer? Do you need to hire a designer? The clearer your vision becomes, and the better your vision is, the tools are out there. You can decide what you buy, what you don't buy, what makes sense. Because you can go out there, you can spend money on this now and like design a couple things, but it will not bring you forward if you want to do something else. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I think like people with a clear vision, they will benefit the most of this era of time. And people with a little bit of like, hey, I'm a consumer, I just want to have a good time, they still can have a lot of benefit because they don't have to pay top dollar. But the people who are like in between and not sure where to put themselves, they will have issues.
I think, and I'm just going to say this, and maybe I know we're getting kind of the end of our episode here, but I kind of want to almost challenge the fact that, I think we keep talking about how the creative boundaries are breaking down, and that's scary, where the business owner can be just as good of a creative as the creative. But I think, and I've talked about how like creatives should also then go the other way and be the business owners and such. Mm-hmm. But what could eventually happen is that we all become everything. We all become this omni thing, right? Because business is done easier, finances are done easier, creativity is done easier. Maybe like the old thinking of like there's a left brain thinker and a right brain thinker. I think that's definitely been going away, where everyone's both essentially. Yeah. And I think we're all coming to the realization that we both can do both things. So I think you're going to see that kind of expand out in the world with things like AI, where it's going to allow people that can't do creativity to maybe become creative. And I think there's going to be AI on the other side, if there isn't already, that helps us come up with, well, like you said earlier, like we're not great writers, you and I, but there's already AI that'll come up with that. So it allows all of us to fill in the gaps, and it allows us to kind of be everything that we want to be. But to go back to kind of our episode on niches last week, that can also, yet again, it can also become overwhelming as well. So it's all focus, right? I mean, it all just comes back to like, what do you want to focus while you're on this planet, and how do you move the pieces to focus on that?
And do you want to focus? Like you could live like an animal, just live in the moment and just do your thing, be happy. Nothing wrong with that, but it's like, it seems like we're developing in that direction, because like it doesn't really make sense to be like a master of the one thing, because it will be obsolete in like 1 or 2 years. You know what is like a really weird thing? And should you focus rather on happiness? You know, what is like being the cat running outside and having fun, you know? What is a very weird concept. Is that, you know, like that is like what I'm seeing in it. And I'm, like I said, ADHD, a little bit confused about what to focus on. And I'm just like seeing all those things. I'm like, I see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and I don't know what route to go down, you know? So I'm like, we're doing a little bit of everything.
It's the money thing that's tied to it. That's part of it. Is it's like
we need
it's like
to eat.
Yeah, like and as the mediums and the tools get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, the harder it is for us to charge more and more and more in some cases. And so so there is that component. You're right, where you're not. It's not like if you didn't have to worry about money, you probably could focus, but you have to kind of just say yes to what you can get money wise.
Yeah.
It's been a good episode, man.
Very creative problem. Everybody, just comment down below your thoughts, because I'm very curious about this, and I think we should wrap this episode up at 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's about our average time. So yeah, I mean, it's been. So to kind of wrap it up, I think, I think AI tools are cool. MidJourney was cool. It's cool to kind of try it out with you over this last week. We'll probably hop back on this topic a few more times.
I think we should like give them a little break and go to the next topic the next time. I think we should do the opposite. Go like old school, like becoming like physical active and doing like, hey, some old school drawings or whatever, or something completely other related, creative. Whatever.
Yeah, well, we could. Yeah. We'll plan something. Yeah. We'll get out of the AI VR world. We've been there a little bit much in the last couple episodes. So yeah, we'll get back into the old stuff, the old world. But yeah, man, it's been a great episode. I appreciate it. It's been good.
Yeah. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.